Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the benefits of democratizing data access. My name is Dataciders, and I'm excited to be here moderating this thought leadership panel with the experts you see in the room with me. With today's talk, I'd like to encourage you to engage and share questions, experiences, and even frustrations in the Q&A section of our GoToWebinar panel. I'm encouraged to be here moderating this panel and providing perspective on how data governance and data product governance can support your journey into data products. We've prepared today's session with the goal to support those of you who are rethinking or actively reworking your data governance strategy to support data products or even things like Gen AI. So just a quick update on who we've got in the room here. And actually, before I get into that, let me cover a couple housekeeping items. So today, you'll be using the GoToWebinar panel to drop any questions. Please know that the conversation will be recorded and made available after today's presentation. So let's move on to who we've got in the room. Allow me to introduce Tian-Kai Feng, Head of Data Strategy and Data Governance Services at Thoughtworks. We've got Christian Schneider, Data and Analytics Evangelist from Dataciders, and of course, our very own Dr. Andy Boom, Founder and Managing Director of OneData. As we move on, I'll just quickly introduce who is OneData. So OneData is a company here to help you redefine your AI and data strategy. We're here to help you design and build data products, manage the data product lifecycle, and also find and share data products. We have a suite of capabilities and features that help you through this process. And last but not least, we're focused on helping you close the last mile between data and the business. So without further ado, I'm going to actually go ahead and launch a poll for us all to get this party started. So the question we have for you today is, when is the last time you updated or revisited your data governance strategy? All right, so let's go ahead and share the results. So we've got very recently, in the last 6 months, 57% of you, and in the last 6 to 12 months, which is recently, 43%. So that's actually pretty good statistics, I'd say, all things covered. And with that, it gives me the opportunity to bring our panelists to the forefront of the conversation. And let's start off with our first question, which is actually, can you introduce yourself? So I would love to just get a quick intro, and Christian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Christian Schneider, Data and Analytics Evangelist of Dataciders and a CEO of Dataciders Quintscape. And so I'm in the data business now for 20 years. Started in the data integration part and then moved more and more to the strategic part. And so data governance covers a large amount of time that I currently invest.
Thank you. And Tian-Kai?
Sure. I'm Tian-Kai. I am the data strategy and data governance lead for Thoughtworks Europe. I joined not too long ago, actually, in October last year. And before that, I was working at Adidas for 6 years, where I was at the end the head of product data governance for the product data domain, but also had other roles before that, like being a data product owner, for example, being also a capability lead. And I think what I find really interesting as my point of view, that is merging the consultant and the client point of view on both sides right now, but also having been an analyst myself, I understand how it is to be a data consumer. So I know as a data management, data governance leader, also how to talk to data consumers in a certain way and how to communicate with them. So yeah, I'm trying to bring all of these worlds together. Yeah.
They're big worlds and big tasks to accomplish.
Yeah. Sure.
And Andy, please introduce yourself.
I'm Andy. I founded OneData about 11 years ago, but also before that, I've been in the data business, always taking care how to create real impactful data so that it's business changing and has impact on top line and costs. And that's what driving me my whole life. And yeah, I think I founded my first company, the age of 23, calling it back then statistics consulting. Didn't know all the other words, but still on the same mission to bring the lead from data into large organizations and to the people.
I love that you're still adapting and bringing statistics now together with the concept of data. Excellent. All right, well, let's get into our first question. Andy, this one is for you. According to a survey by Gartner, respondents who successfully increased data sharing led data and analytics teams that were 1.7 times more effective at showing demonstrable, verifiable value to data and analytics stakeholders. They also predict that organizations that promote data sharing will outperform their peers on most business value metrics. Can you elaborate on why that is and where data democratization comes in?
I'm happy to do that. So from my experience, I think organizations have to understand that data is their biggest chance to improve the business for the next years. I think all of the other efficiencies have been already tried to reach, but data is still a huge source for optimization and efficiency gains. And to get there, you should be very aware that the whole data teams that you have are a very strong source that you have in their power. But you have to give them the power, you have to strengthen them, you have to see them as a profit center, not as a cost center, and you have to combine them with business people. And I think if you really manage to bridge the last mile, to bring the data people and the business people together and really see them as the profit center, the source for innovation, the source for really optimizing your business, then you have a big chance to really optimize your business significantly. And I think this is the biggest mistake that is done currently, that data is just seen as a cost center, and it's not really used as a leverage, and it's not governance is seen as something annoying, but actually it's a source for innovation. And that's what business leaders should think about and fix their mind if they want to have fast success in the business. That's my opinion. And coming with that, you will see that people start using the data, start taking decisions based on data, and making the full organization. That's my strong belief.
Right. Thank you. And Tiankai or Christian, do you have anything to add to that?
I want to say that, I mean, what Andy already said about the data generally being more seen as a cost center than a value enabler applies specifically also even more to data governance, right? Where the value is even more indirect than I would say with analytics, for example. And really connecting the dots there requires not only, I think, the leadership awareness and understanding how things work, but also for data governance leaders to continuously communicate and connect the dots proactively to also show the value.
Yes, so that is what we also see, that data governance is something like you need to translate to especially top management, because so it's another thing with data. So, and it's important, but it looks also like costs. And so you need to show the benefits.
Christian, that leads me into a question actually aimed directly at you, which people are usually constrained when it comes to sharing data, even within their own company. So Gartner advocates to shift the traditional approach of limiting data access, unless explicitly justified, is involved into a more inclusive paradigm of must share data unless. Can you talk a little bit about the role of data governance strategy in enabling more open access to data, while also ensuring security and privacy? Excuse me.
Yeah, yes. I think we need to face here this cultural resistance in companies, and so I hopefully can answer this question under 3 hours, because there are both so many aspects on that. So this evolution to must share unless that Gartner is proposing represents really a significant cultural and operational shift in for many organizations. So, and you need a robust data governance strategy and agile strategy here. So, and of course, you need to accompany this process. So, when it comes to data access policies, so you need to shift to default to openness. So that's a challenge for most of the companies, because they have least rights methodology or something like that. So you need to implement some kind of principle where sharing by default is unless you have really a compelling reason to restrict access, like compliance or security constraints. So, and if we are looking at security, you need some kind of role-based access. So maybe job roles or any kind of other roles. And so that is also something where you need to segment your data properly, and that ideally make it available in this kind of some enveloped system. So I think that is where we later come to the point of data products that are helpful here. So, and if we discuss access, we also discuss privacy by design, which is also really important. So you need to embed your privacy considerations in the data lifecycle. And if we talk about lifecycle, we talk about data governance. So that's also where the connecting point is. So from the collection of data through the processing, through sharing. And one additional point is the monitoring of the access. And so that's critical data in itself. So because you really focus on personal data here, so continuously monitoring and auditing data access, so to help to detect and prevent unauthorized usage. And that is currently getting a lot of data about also the usage of data from specific people. And so that is the access side. So, and you also need to foster data quality, because quality generates trust. So it's always that way. So you need to have data quality in place. So data validation, cleansing, enrichment, and of course, maintaining also the accuracy of your data. And you need to focus here on transparency. So provide a metadata, lineage information, all that stuff that give users the context to the data. So that is where data catalogs come in place. And so that means change. And it means change how to work with the data and how you organize data. And that means overcoming this cultural resistance. So, and at that point is the key involving stakeholders. You need to involve the stakeholders. It immediately generates rejection if people are not involved. So you need to engage stakeholders early in the transition to gather input from them, and also to build a buy-in from them. So you need to have leadership support, of course. That is what I referred to. You need to translate to top management and to have them really buy in. And more relevant, you need to speak, to talk, and to explain. You need to discuss concerns. You need to gather feedback, and you need to refine your policies on stakeholder input. And you need to believe in the stakeholders. And last but not least, it's storytelling. And storytelling, it's maybe it's sometimes confused with this clumsy marketing. So, and actually done, it's exactly that. So, but most of the people who would do data governance is going to be data driven. You can be proud of your innovations and the activities to prepare your company for the coming years. So you need to talk about it. You need to talk about the innovation, explain how more accessible data can drive innovation and improve decision making with examples from your domain. Efficiency. Demonstrate how reducing the data silos can streamline processes or reduce duplication and show positive impact on your business. Invest in data literacy, enhance overall data literacy within the organization to help the employees to understand how to leverage the data insights. And last but not least, also have user-friendly interfaces, an application that allow easy access that is fun to use because of the user experience, and that are easy to use and that offer support where the customer, not where the customer, where the user needs it. So you need to tell the story honest and transparent, and that helps to move this process of building a data a governance really fast. So building trust through transparency. It's an easy equation, but it reflects all the complexity of this cultural change process in really one word.
Thank you, Christian. And I saw that there's definitely some keys there, which takes me back to the olden days as people, process, and technology. It is not one, it is all. Tiankai, I saw maybe you had some thoughts here, so I'd like to also allow you to chime in on this question. And then Andy, I've got one for the audience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I generally think that even the storytelling part that Christian mentioned needs to particularly contribute to data governance being also perceived in a different light than before, right? I think in the white paper we created, I talk about reimagining it and that data governance needs rebranding. I think it doesn't help us that data governance in the past was very authoritative and control driven, right? And that it was seen a lot as the data police or like roadblockers, basically, for data projects to not continue. But those times are over, right? And I think the general trend is now to go to data being usable, but putting guardrails on there, right? But everybody's realizing that data is there to create value and it's not there to be protected from anything and just to keep it in the dark just in case, right? And that means it's really a switch in the people, process, and technologies part that you mentioned, right? But we have to overcome the mindset first, and that requires all of that communication and storytelling to actually make that happen. And saying that you are doing it in a more value-driven and a more enabling way is one thing. You have to also prove it. And that's why really establishing data governance in a credible way and an enabling way takes time, because you're dealing with change management and convincing people's opinions, right? And yeah, that's really the tricky part there.
Thank you for chiming in there. This question comes from one of our audience members. I am going to butcher your name and I apologize, but Sayali. She asked, how can one enable open data sharing in an organization and also considering the data privacy concerns? Is it preferable to enable this with a tool, so enforcing strictly by design, or by establishing a process which allows some exceptions? And Andy, I'll throw that one over to you to start.
Thanks. I think it's not an either or. I think you need a tool that enforces a process. So, and I think the tool, you have to be able to allow your governance to set the guidelines and the rail lines. And so there are different concepts like open by design or non-accessible by design. So it's not an either or. And I just want to also come back to the other topic that Christian and Janke mentioned. I think it's important to start with small steps. We too often see that data governance and being a data-driven culture is getting so much resistance because it's a huge change process. But you can start very fast. We can have successes first by building small data products. And coming back to the questions, you can very easily build 1 to 3 data products, and you can test it out how you want to share it. You can say, look, this is data that create this what it looks like, and that takes fear. And what I always try to tell customers, they say, okay, data products are a huge change, and it takes time, but you can start today, and you should start today, because otherwise our organizations will be faster and will overtake you because they use it. So I really like the agile approach that Christian mentioned. Start fast, iterate fast, test it out, see what process fits your organization, what guidelines fit your organization, and do it. Just do it. And with that, you can overcome cultural changes. With that, you can overcome the resistance because you're going to have successes when you say, okay, look, we do so many things. And just one more topic about that. I think all the data teams and governance teams are already doing great stuff. They are doing very valuable stuff, but it's not shown. It's not managed as a product, but the value is shown and transported to the stakeholders. And I think if you start with what you have and say, look, we already do that. We create this great data for process mining, for the reporting. We already do that. We can make a data product from that. And then you have the first successes. And then you just move on with additional one step by step. But you can go small steps. And I think this is the key practice. And then coming back to the questions, and then the guidelines and the process will come naturally by agile transformations.
Sandy and Christian or Tiankai, anything you want to add to that?
Mm-hmm. So if you're going to start to think in data products, and I don't mean the technical part of that, I mean the logical part of that, it will become easier. So if you think of this big data lake or whatever you have in the company, it's hard to do security on that. So, but if you go the next step and envelope the data, so it's more easy to define security rules. And of course, you need to understand, is it something that should be really a secret, or is it something that I don't want to give out because I lose power in my position? So that is the question you also need to address.
Yeah, I would only also add that whenever it comes to PII, like data privacy related data, then it's also worth to consider the use cases themselves, right? Because data products should be all attached to some kind of business value generation, right? But not all of them need all of the granular and detailed privacy data that there is, right? Sometimes it's enough to have it aggregated or anonymized to a certain degree anyway. And for only very particular cases, you might actually need to go to the raw, very like unfiltered data that is very personal. But to consider maybe more about generally what the use cases are for privacy-related data can maybe help you to then think about how much should be automated, how much to what degree you want to give flexibility to their products to specify, or how much are enforced already on platform level, for example, as well, right? And think more from a value generation point of view and not like from a what about all of the risks, more from a how do we derive the value and then put the right guardrails on top.
Thanks, Tiankai. Which I'm going to actually throw it right back to you because you already kind of talked a little bit about reimagining or rebranding this idea and concept of data governance. But as people are going forward, what are some of the keys to unlock this? And what would you share as best practice from your perspective today?
Yeah, I would say I usually try to apply three principles. The first principle is to apply data governance more situationally and contextually, right? The idea is that it's impossible to boil the ocean, right? It's impossible to apply data governance to every single data point, to all the data sets in your organization. So pick your battles, basically, and try to assess first what are the most important and critical parts of data that should be governed and that require governance, and start there. And even if you do it then, try to prioritize based on business value or amount of risk you need to prevent, right? And kind of create a roadmap where you do it use case by use case rather than trying to do it all at once. Data governance is often being measured by short-term success and achievements, although it's not right to do it that way, simply because, as mentioned before, it takes time, right? But we shouldn't even make it even harder by trying to do it all at once and then only show value maybe 2 years from now. So try to like kind of accelerate that cycle from generating mechanisms, trying to define policies and applying them in shorter cycles, ideally helps with showing that value and then rolling it out over time. The second one I would call is to move away from a push mechanism of data governance to more of a pull mechanism, right? The idea is to not too much focus on manually auditing everything anymore, but to rather have these control layers where, especially in data products, you have control ports, for example, and observability and quality ports, right? To leave the more tedious routine tasks to automation rather than only basically doing it all manually, and rather than focus on the critical thinking and making the right decisions on human level, and instead of just doing it all manually this way. which also leads to the third principle, which is about automation is your best friend. I say it, right? I'm not saying that data governance can be completely automated, but you should use it as much as you can, simply because there is so much to do, right? And besides the control ports and kind of observability quality ports and data products, there are other ways where you can start applying it already, right? Like with data profiling, for example, at least you can get like a first glimpse into how data is classified. And even if it's not perfect, it's faster than for you to manually classify it, right? It's also with even writing policies to even have like a little bit of a help to just help write some sentences for you and then for you to adapt them might be a little bit easier than for you to write it from scratch. Or even with data quality business rules, if you want to document those and you wanted to do it in a certain way, let AI help you a little bit, for example, to at least start there, and then you can still finish it faster. So yeah, let's take advantage of the current possibilities, right, of automation to make it work. There's so many other things where we need human brains to think about things that we should not keep ourselves busy with tedious work.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the question that came in from the audience, which is actually the human-oriented approach, probably. Mm-hmm. What are some tips and ways to actually marry qualitative outcomes to numbers? So when you're trying to share information back or get buy-in from upper management, what are some of the metrics and ways that we can understand and prove ROI?
For me or?
Yeah, sorry. Back to you, Tiankai, on that one.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, there should be always three categories of value for data governance that you try to attach it to, right? One is either you increase revenue, you are saving costs, or you're avoiding risk. And if you think about these three buckets, you kind of can imagine in what direction it goes with your qualitative output that you have, right? For example, right, if the data quality of your product data increases, then you might be able to find the product better on your e-commerce website, which means you're increasing the revenue that you get from a sales channel, right? So it has that kind of consequence. Same is if the data quality is increasing for basically a B2B process, sales process, it means that salespeople don't have to manually correct the data anymore for their client counterparts. And that's saving simple person hours every month, for example, that we can do other things with. And of course, you have risks such as regulations that if you're not complying with those, of course, you're facing fines or jail time or whatever, right? And I think by thinking in these buckets, that can at least help to qualitatively drive a certain narrative towards leadership, right? To at least say it always ties into one of these three or more, right, together. And the more you can work with your business counterparts to then quantify it to, the better. But it's, I think, impossible for data governance people themselves to generate assess the value of their own, because they are just not the business experts that are actually dealing with the data in the day-to-day, right? So really use your business counterparts as your partners once you already have the buy-in with them, and work with them together on these so-called business cases to then turn the qualitative insight into a quantitative proof, so to say.
Great. And Andy or Christian, anything from you to add to that?
Christian, you're brilliant.
It was near to perfect.
That's a great addition.
Yeah, no, I'm also agreeing with Tiankai. And just one, I really like this rethinking theme, and how I see data governance and organization is like the central team that is also like a guide that can tell you if you want to have data from that domain, you can talk to that person, you have that in that system, this is where you can read, so that you lower the hurdles for a business people who want to work with data. So they have one they can ask. There is one more like a guide. I think if you see that more as a guide that helps to really say, look at that, this is what you could do, this is what we already have. And if we see that more as that role, a central person or a central team in an organization that is holdable, that is accessible as well, because also the people have to be accessible, then I think you drive this change much faster, as if you just have a number that is anonym and there is no person behind.
Thanks, Andy. Hopefully that answers the question. I think those are very thorough examples for the audience. So good stuff. Christian, the next question is actually going to come over to you, and it's actually transitioning kind of into more of the topic on data product governance. How would you describe the intersection of data products and governance?
Yes, for me, it's a symbiotic relationship. So, what are data products? Essentially, enveloping data to specific business needs. And for people who come in touch with data products the first time, I often describe that they are often close to the forgotten convenience of everyday products like toasters and coffee machines we use. These products have guaranteed product features, and they have a repair service if they are broken. And for a coffee machine, so it's for us totally normally to have that and to understand that. And for data products, which are essentially the same, it's a little bit celebrated as an innovation. So data products will become the norm in the near future. So with this data-driven transformation of companies that they are currently doing. So, and in the governance context, data products help to maintain and establish standards for quality, compliance, and security. And so data governance provides a structure within data products can be created, maintained, and used. So, and that involves quality insurance. Dankai brought this example of monitoring. You can ensure compliance. You can have accessibility controls, implementing access control that balance this open data access with security measures. That's referring to this question we had some minutes before. So my favorite subject is the role of metadata in data governance. So metadata serves as a foundation for both for data products and for governance. And so you have data lineage in there. So you can ensure transparency and traceability. And that's crucial really for understanding the context and the trustworthiness of data products. On the other hand side, we can collect metrics. And so that is also to this inner construction of data products. So capturing how data products are used within the companies allows me to have a more agile governance decisions and do that in a faster frequency to optimize also my governance and my data products. So, and if we think of this data product lifecycle, you have this design phase where data governance guides you through the design of the data product because it gives you this rail guard. It establishes quality criteria that I think it's the point we also had some times here in this call, and then you have the development phase, where you implement governance controls to ensure the process. Automatization is a big part here, also mentioned, and you can incorporate the metadata. You have the deployment phase where you start monitoring them, and also you need to implement a feedback channel here to enable users to suggest improvements, to integrate feedback in the working with the data. And last but not least, you also have this maintenance phase where you review and update also your governance and also your data products. And you also need to consider to archive and retire them. So if data products are not needed anymore, or if the world changes, also your data products will change, and also your governance, especially if you have regulatory things in there. So that is the whole life cycle, and that will accompany with the data governance there. So In to refer to your question, so it's a symbiotic relationship, and it's a really a good thing to move fast.
Christian, that was very thorough, which I very much appreciate. And you make me think about something from a business side is coming together from many of you, which is a lot of the time the business doesn't understand this. And so we do rely on our data teams to help educate us through these processes, which kind of comes and ties into that last bullet that you hit on, which is we need to keep things updated and relevant. All right. I'm going to actually move us over to Andy because also Christian touched on something, and he touched on the topic of how do we enhance democratization? And for you, my question is, how can companies practically use data products to enhance that? And how can the data marketplace play a role in this?
Mm-hmm. So from what I've seen from my experience, there are a lot of great things done in the data teams, in the CDO organization, but it is not shown to the outside world. So the problem is they're doing great things. There are a lot of hidden ETLs. There are a lot of hidden reports that are coming in Tableau. Things have to be done 3, 4 times the same thing because it's not known that it's there. And I think if you start with lifting the data that have been built with Databricks, whatever, and promote them as a data product, and you make the most important assets that you have visible as a product, and you maintain them as Christian just described it, and you just do it for the most important assets. And you analyze what is used in reports, what is used in my day-to-day business, and you show that to the outside world. This is the very first big step to help the data democratization. And I think it is important also to show to the outside world the impact that data teams have, because they do. But if it's not shown, then they just ask, why does that cost so much money? Why is not more money, more value generated? By using a data product marketplace, when the first step, you just promote your most important assets to make visible how many users have access to it, how many users use that on a day-to-day basis. And they're just showcasing why it's so important what you're doing. You're going the first step towards democratization because you go out of the dark, show it to the business side, and you also showcase the value of the teams that is there. And I think with that, and it comes back, the teams are like, oh, cool, that's what you already have. Let's do another thing. And then you get this positive cycle. And that's what I've seen in a lot of organizations. This is why the marketplace is important, because you have to be able to showcase what has been built in the different teams independently of the technology. And with that, you see what's already available in the organization and how many data you already can use today to manage better your business.
Thanks, Andy. And that actually leads me right into a question for you, Tiankai, which is, now that we've considered data products available in the marketplace, what would you say good or even awesome data governance look like? And what are the principles of modern data governance, as you call it?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think I would describe awesome data governance with data products basically being that policies and all of the control mechanisms are as automated as possible, right? And that the translation from new requirements towards data into putting them as guardrails is as fast as possible, right? And this way around, then, if there are any issues with the data, right, and they are related to governance issues, that they're identified and that everyone feels responsible to act as fast as possible to mitigate the risks, and that those mitigated risks are prevented in the future. That's how I would see it. I think there should be also more, almost like I would say like a continuous improvement approach to governance itself, where governance is never finished, right, with it, because there's always going to be new data and new requirements towards it. But how does continuous improvement actually look like? And I think every company needs to translate that to themselves on how their processes work. But as soon as you think about governance always having to be better than before and be more committed to requirements, I think a lot of the decisions hopefully are being then translated from there. Yeah.
Thanks. And actually, that opens up a question that comes from the audience. I'm going to call out, this is called data proliferation. So are you aware of the challenges in data governance arising from the increasing number of data products? Would this then be part of a regular maintenance schedule? So how do we manage for data product proliferation, in other words? And Tiankai, I actually throw that back to you to start, and then we'll let the others chime in.
Sure. I mean, I think generally with data products, the best practice is that they are following the FAIR principles from the get-go, right? That they are very present, that they're findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, right? And which basically already is making sure a lot of the data governance principles are implemented there. How I see it is that even when data products are created on the platform, that some of the policies and the rules related to data governance are cascaded from the platform automatically to data products. And when data products are specified at the very beginning already, that there's almost an automation in terms of classifying the data and deriving the right rules from it already embedded in there. Meaning that even if data products are getting more and more because of that automation, it's a scalable approach, right? Classification is automated. The rules and the mechanisms that derive are automated too. What's basically being left is then that the monitoring is just overarching across all of the data products anyway. So as somebody like a data product owner, data domain owner, or a data governance person, you at least can focus on where it's not going right, but you get it already all from existing monitoring, and you don't have to jump into every single new data product to be there, right? So what I would suggest is really to find a scalable way for data products to be governed from the very beginning, considering that it will be more and more, right? And considering how you cannot govern manually every single data product if you want to follow that approach more and more. Yeah.
Tiankai, and I think you hit on a very important point. Not all things are data products. And so the data product is a consistent set of criteria, and it meets that criteria. Andy, I'd love for you to also chime in, because I know One Data has some feature and capability coming around data contracts and versioning. Would you want to add anything on there?
Yes, I think what's important, so the basic idea of data products is separating the signal from the noise. So what you really want to do is to have the most important information in the data products. Not every asset is a data product. And I think what then happens is that you start reusing data products. And if you reuse, you don't have 5 or 10 or 20 tables doing the same things, because 20 tables make things completely unmaintainable, make it ungovernable. And I think just by understanding the concept of data products and taking it seriously and putting contracts on that, making it governable and making quality higher, as Christian said, you're going to make sure that you're going to have way less items, but you're going to make sure that one item has the right information. And that really reduces the complexity and reduces the governance need, because it will be less. And I just can tell from our experience for One Data, we're data people. And before we had the data product concept, we generated tons of data assets and tables in all kind of different systems. And we had the same information about the geologs in 20 tables, and nobody knew what's correct. But when we started to go to data products, we now have 30, 40 data products, and we can manage the full business with that. We don't need more. Before we had thousands of tables, and it was unmanageable, ungovernable. By reducing the amount, by really separating signal from the noise, that will then help you to really work with data.
Thanks, Andy. And Christian, anything you want to add into that?
Yes. So what we see is the people are reluctant to remove things. So if you think of data products, you think of or you need to think of a life cycle. So what I mentioned earlier. So you need to have the courage to retire things and to replace things, and that is, you need to have data about your data products. Where are they used? Are they used? And so to remove really things that you don't need anymore, and really to rethink that. And so that way you avoid having a more and more growing and pile of data products that you can't oversee. So, and I think that's the point. The process is really normative here to have in place a product lifecycle.
Absolutely. That's a great addition. I'll actually point the next question right back over to you. And we're transitioning over to the topic of AI. So from your perspective, Christian, what role does AI play in data governance today? And how does it change things?
Yes, it's AI is a little bit of this magic lamp that will everything make better. And so if we believe marketing. So, and of course it's not. So AI also, artificial intelligence is currently a catch-all term for algorithms, for LLMs, for co-pilots, for advanced analytics, and so on. So we need to look at how can we use that in some kind of targeted manner, so that it can be a game changer to free up time for really important things. That is what Tiankai refers to, and becomes a valuable assistant. And that, I think, is currently the position of artificial intelligence in the value creation. So artificial intelligence currently has a greater impact on data products than on data governance. But from this perspective, there are some topics in the area of assistance. So AI-powered tool can automatically classify and take data based on the content they understand, on the context they understand, and of course of the usage patterns. So if we have, for example, NLP, it's not really AI, but let's face it, like this catch-all term. You can analyze unstructured data and bring structured data, metadata from that data, and that leads to more accurate data cataloging. And if you have machine learning algorithms here, so you can identify data patterns, you can classify data, do the automatization at that point, and you can even, and so I think that is a little bit the game changer, also suggest new classifications based on this emerging patterns you monitor on this continuous way to be data driven. Anomaly detection also, so it's also not really artificial intelligence, but you can identify outliers or glitches in data, so helping to maintain this high data integrity, this high data quality. You can use it for data cleansing, so identify and also to some extent rectify inaccuracies. You can find duplicates more than just comparing field by field, but to understand the context of this duplicates. So you can use that for predictive analysis. So when we talk about predictive maintenance for factories, so the use case is immediately obvious. Say it's about recognizing a problem before the machine comes to a standstill. And so AI can provide this predictive insights also for governance to anticipate governance issues and optimize that strategy. So continuous risk assessment based on monitoring, measure the effectiveness of the policies you implemented, or do impact analysis. And last but not least, and I'm not sure, say, we have all these areas that require some amount of courage, and honestly, which I don't have for this case, but I don't want to leave it unmentioned. Say, you can also use AI on the access of data. So that means that you have dynamic access control, but you really need to think about if you really want that level, because AI can, of course, adapt to the context and the sensitivity of data, allowing a more flexible, faster access control. But I don't know if it's useful at the moment. So to be honest, I won't do that, but it's possible. So to bring to the point, automatization of this repetitive tasks is one of the great areas of AI that will shift the possibilities of the traditional automatization, and of course the enhancement of decision making. So AI generates insights also from governance activities, so helping us to identify areas of improvement and optimization. So you can really use it as an assistant currently. That's I think it's a great news.
Thanks, Christian. And that actually brings me to the question for you, Tian Kai, which is, in a modern data governance approach, how do you see the importance of AI, especially related to some of the use cases that Christian mentioned, and how do you see it developing? I think he touched on kind of one of those last big opportunities, but clearly you need to have governance in place to grow it. So
yeah, absolutely. I think, and Christian already, I think, perfectly outlined how you can use AI for data governance already nowadays, right? I was actually thinking about the question the other way around, which is data governance for AI, right? And which basically means that if you have so much AI applications, and we all know many companies are hyped about that, and they're all jumping up like mushrooms right now with different AI applications everywhere, that requires governance too, right? And I feel like that when we talk about AI governance itself, there's a lot to learn from data governance, that you can apply similar principles. We're not talking about data assets anymore, but AI models that need to be governed. But you have the same with classification and ownership and lifecycle management, et cetera, that I think we can learn a lot from data governance. At the same time, I see like a big, I would say, gap, but also opportunity at the same time, because AI models need to be trained with data, right? And the data itself is so critical to AI models to be successful. But the factors that are being considered have not been in scope so far in data governance, right? And I'm talking about fairness and bias and all these kind of topics. And I feel like there's this gray area where AI models are clearly owned by specific AI developers and experts. Data from a quality point of view and security point of view is managed by data governance. But who is then defining how to assess bias, fairness, and these kind of topics to make it work, right? And I feel like this is where there needs to be a stronger bond between AI efforts and data governance to really find a way to agree on how that works. And then in modern data governance, how to also be able to translate that into rules and then be automated. Because same as for data, we cannot start manually classifying all of the AI models all of a sudden, especially when we're doing more and more of those. So finding patterns, defining them for your own organization, which then also slows you down a little bit in your AI efforts. But I feel like probably for the better in that case. So yeah, that would be, at least from my point of view, how AI is influencing data governance as well.
And on that note, just one other question for you is, okay, there's always the context of think big, start small. So we have talked about data governance. We've talked about its continuous need for development and iteration. We've talked about data product governance.
Correct.
And now we're talking about AI governance. Where do you see, specifically Tian Kai, how do you see all of this playing together, and how would you prioritize as a data leader and a data governance leader specifically?
That's a great question. I have a very consultancy answer to that, which is it depends. But the real answer is probably it depends on how you are prioritizing in an organization different things, right? And especially when we think about data foundational governance itself in source applications, then you have data product governance, and then you have AI governance. It heavily depends on your maturity in your organization, right? Like if you are barely able to govern your data already in source applications, maybe start there first and don't think about AI models immediately, right? then you might at some point have data products to focus on that first, right? Before you then get to AI governance. You should not jump to conclusions anyway to the most advanced things if you are not sure about the foundations, right? So I feel like it's more of a roadmap topic and a maturity topic. The only advice I would have is to be more honest and reflective on your own maturity and your how good your data foundations are, and to do it one step at a time and not try to be too fast. Okay.
I think that's a great perspective to have, which actually, Andy, takes me over to you. So when you think about data products, how can AI be used to create data products to increase data sharing? And why should this be something to consider?
Thanks. And I would like to come back to what has been said before, because I think it's a great aspect. First of all, I think you can use AI to build data products faster. This does not mean that it does fully automate, but you can reduce the hurdles for people doing things. So, and by that, you can bring in business users who really understand the content of the data. So first of all, reducing hurdles for people to work with the data that were not able to work with the data before. Second thing is automate things that are stupid to do. I've been working as a data scientist many years, and most of the time I used Excel to join tables that were not joinable by manually writing things left to right and take the table, copy it in, and do it again. All these nonsense, automate that and make the people work on the right important things. And the third aspect where I think what I would turn around is how can data products help AI? I think one reason why we don't see more value from data and more value from AI is because people train the AI models for companies with everything, and this might be unbiased and wrong information, so you don't have impact from that. But let's make it, as Tiankai suggested, let's build data products first. Let's use the data governance of data products, put the AI models on top of them, train with the right data, and ensure the data access policies that you already have ensured for data products. Combine them with technologies, and then it's extremely strong. But don't do just points or whatever. It won't help you. So start data products, use AI to get faster data products, to get more people into that, and then you can have great AI applications on top of it. This is how I see that for the interplay. And I think this will make organizations really successful and let them show real business impact and not just playgrounds.
All right. Well, Christian, I feel like I need to give you the opportunity to layer in there as well. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think so everything is said. So you need to be honest with your maturity level. So I think that is one of the key takeaways here, because the possibility are limitless. So that there is no thought about that. So you need to be honest with your maturity level. You need to go step by step, build up a roadmap, and with that you basically fail fast and adjust. So I think that is the way to go, and to avoid this frustration of having a big project failing instead of thinking, okay, here I am, here do I want to go, and what is the right tooling, what is the right method, and what is the right way to go from here to here to here. And so I think if we reflect what was said today, that was the basic takeaway.
Thanks, Christian. And I'm actually going to wrap us up here because we're at time, which I think this was a very meaningful and healthy discussion around data governance, data products, and obviously the use of AI. So first and foremost, I want to thank our speakers today, Tiankai, Christian, and Andy. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and answering a lot of questions that came in from the audience. On that note, I will go ahead and just quickly share my screen to wrap us up here and let you all know that if you're interested in learning more about use cases and how to actually apply data products to those use cases in your organization, we actually have a webinar series starting on July 11th on a number of different topics across data products for process mining, ESG reporting, financial steering, supply chain, production planning, and retail. So if you're interested, you are more than welcome to join us. And you can actually scan this QR code if that is of interest. I'll leave it up for just a few seconds. And of course, our team will follow up with a link to the webinar from today, as well as a link to register for additional events. So thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate everybody from an audience perspective. Thank you for your engagement, and to our panelists, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, you can contact us on LinkedIn or whatever. Sorry for being really that late. Just write us a direct message on LinkedIn, on email, whatever. We're happy to do that in the aftermath. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.